Avoidant returns can feel like the most dangerous kind of hope, because the warmth is real enough to pull you back in, but the repair is missing enough to keep the same wound open. They come back sweet. They sound present. They act like they missed you. Your body exhales. Your mind wants to believe the story that this time is different. And then you notice the pattern. They want access again, but they do not want accountability for the silence, the distance, the mixed signals, or the last rupture. So you end up re-entering the relationship at the exact point that kept you stuck before. In this episode, we are going to do one thing that stops that cycle. We are going to separate proof from hope. Hope is the feeling you get from their warmth. Proof is the structure they build after the rupture. If you can learn to measure proof instead of hope, you stop getting reset by sweetness, and you start making decisions that protect your nervous system. If this kind of clarity helps your nervous system settle, subscribe. PsychBond is a daily decoder for psychology, relationships, and avoidant and anxious attachment patterns, so you stop guessing. Now, let us define the pattern in plain words. The avoidant person returns warm, but avoids repair. That means they reappear with affection, attention, or chemistry, but they do not address what happened. They do not take responsibility for the impact, and they do not offer a concrete plan for what will be different next time. They want the benefits of closeness back without the discomfort of accountability. And if you are anxious, your nervous system is vulnerable right here, because your body is more bonded after a rupture, not less. The distance created threat. The return creates relief. Relief is powerful. Relief can feel like love. So when they come back warm, your brain wants to treat it as proof that you matter. But warmth is not proof. Warmth is a moment. Repair is proof. Repair is a behavior change that protects the baseline. That is what we are going to install today. Proof versus hope thinking is not cold. It is not bitterness. It is how you stop being trained by inconsistency. It is how you stay kind without being unprotected. Let us start with the story your mind tells when they return warm. The story says, "They missed me." The story says, "They realized." The story says, "They are soft now." The story says, "This warmth is the real them," and the withdrawal was stress or fear. The story says, "If I handle this correctly, we can finally be together." That story is hope-based thinking. Hope-based thinking is when you use one good moment to erase a pattern. Hope-based thinking is when you interpret chemistry as capacity. Hope-based thinking is when you treat their return as a reset instead of a test. The structure says something else. The structure says, returns are common in avoidant patterns because distance lowers their internal pressure and warmth restores their comfort. The structure says the return is not the question. The question is what happens next. Do they repair? Do they build a different structure? Do they create predictability? Do they accept accountability? Do they change one repeat behavior? Proof-based thinking means you do not punish the return, but you also do not reward it with full access until you see repair. Now, let us get brutally clear about what repair is and what it is not. Repair is not a sweet text. Repair is not a compliment. Repair is not a sexual reconnect. Repair is not an apology that ends with "but." Repair is not them saying they were busy. Repair is not them telling you you should relax. Repair is not them acting normal and hoping time erases the rupture. Repair is naming what happened, owning the impact, and offering a different behavior next time in a way you can actually observe. Repair sounds like, "I went distant after we got close, and that was confusing and painful. I did not communicate. I understand the impact. Next time I feel overwhelmed, I will tell you I need space, and I will give you a return time." Then, they do it. Repair is proof because it changes the future. Without repair, the return is just the loop restarting. Warmth brings you back into the bond. No repair guarantees another rupture. If you accept a return without repair, you teach their nervous system and yours that withdrawing is allowed and accountability is optional. That is why this topic matters. This is where people lose months and years. Let us map the control loop that keeps you hooked, but we will do it through the proof versus hope lens. Step 1 is rupture. They go quiet, vague, cold, busy, or unavailable. Step 2 is anxious activation. You feel threat, and you start trying to solve. Step 3 is withdrawal. Your body experiences it like detox. Step 4 is return. They reappear warm. Step 5 is relief. Your body floods, and your mind calls it love. Step 6 is reset. You act like nothing happened because you do not want to risk losing the warmth. Step 7 is repeat. Another rupture arrives because nothing changed. Proof-based thinking breaks the loop at step 6. You stop doing the reset. You require repair before full access. That is the whole game. Now, let us make this painfully practical with scenes. Scene 1 is the casual return. They disappeared for days. You were anxious and hurt. Then they send a message like, "Hey, you," or they like your story and then text as if nothing happened. Your body wants to respond fast because it feels like oxygen returned. Hope-based thinking says, do not ruin it, just be sweet. Proof-based thinking says, a return is not a reset. So you respond calmly and structurally. You can say, "I am open to talking. Before we go back to normal, we need to address the silence and agree on what changes." That one sentence reveals everything. A person who can repair will stay in the conversation. A person who wants access without accountability will dodge, minimize, joke, or go cold again. Either way, you get proof. Scene 2 is the romantic return. They come back with a soft voice. They sound affectionate. They might say they missed you. They might call you babe. They might say they have been thinking about you. They might want to see you immediately. This return is powerful because it triggers your bonding system. Hope-based thinking says, yes, they feel it. Proof-based thinking asks one question. What changed? If nothing changed, the warmth is a reset attempt. So you do not punish them, but you slow down access. You say, I would like to see you. Before we reconnect physically or emotionally, we need to talk about what happened and what will be different. A mature person can handle this. An avoidant pattern that relies on resets will treat this as pressure. That is proof. Scene 3 is the crisis return. They vanish, then something happens in their life, and they reappear, needing comfort. They are warm because they want regulation. They might say, you are the only one who understands them. You feel chosen. Hope-based thinking says, I matter. Proof-based thinking says, this is not choosing. This is using access for soothing. So you can be kind without becoming their regulator. You can say, I hope you are okay. I am willing to talk. I also need consistency and repair if we are going to be close. If they cannot offer that, you do not deepen the bond in a crisis. Otherwise, you become the comfort person who is not the partner. Scene 4 is the jealous return. They pull away, then you detach or go quiet, and suddenly they reappear, attentive. They ask where you were. They act protective. They imply they missed you. This can feel like proof because the energy is strong. But jealousy is not capacity. Jealousy is fear of losing access. Proof-based thinking watches the next week. Do they build structure, or do they cool as soon as they feel safe again? Hope-based thinking collapses into sweetness and gives full access. Proof-based thinking holds the line. Now, we need to talk about why avoidant people return warm but avoid repair. Not as an excuse, as clarity. In many avoidant systems, the rupture is not processed as a rupture. The distance feels like relief. The silence feels like regulation. So when they return, they want closeness without revisiting the discomfort of what happened. Talking about the rupture feels like threat because it brings up responsibility, shame, or fear of conflict. They may also fear that if they admit they hurt you, you will ask for more commitment or more change, which feels like pressure. So they choose the shortcut: warmth, sweetness, chemistry, a joke, a plan to hang out, anything that restores comfort without accountability. That is why proof-based thinking matters. If you accept the shortcut, you train it.
Now let us name the anxious trap here. The anxious trap is relief addiction. Your body has been in threat. When they return warm, relief hits so hard that you lose access to your standards. You think, I just want us to be okay. You think, I do not want to fight. You think, I will bring it up later. Later never comes because once the warmth is back, you fear triggering another withdrawal. So you swallow the rupture. You call it being understanding. But what you are actually doing is trading your nervous system safety for access. Proof-based thinking breaks that trade. It says, I can be warm and kind and still require repair. If this connection cannot survive a repair conversation, it is not a safe connection. Here is the key distinction we are going to drill. Warmth is a feeling. Repair is a structure. A feeling can be real and still not protect you. A structure protects you even when feelings fluctuate. In secure love, after a rupture, there is repair. In unstable love, after a rupture, there is a reset. A reset feels good for a moment. A repair makes the future safer. So you must stop measuring whether they are changing by how warm they are. Measure by whether the baseline becomes predictable. Now let us build your proof filter. We will keep it simple so it does not become obsession. There are 4 proof markers. 1. Acknowledgement. Do they name what happened without you dragging it out of them? 2. Responsibility. Do they own the impact without blaming you or minimizing? 3. Plan. Do they offer a specific behavior for next time, like communicating space with a return time? 4. Follow through. Do they do it the next time they feel overwhelmed? If any one of these is missing, you are in hope. You can still stay, but you must name that you are staying in hope and not pretend you are safe. Proof is what creates safety.
Now let us translate that into language you can actually use without sounding dramatic. You can say, "I like you, and I like being close. I am not available for disappearing. If you need space, tell me and give me a return time." If they agree, you say, "Good." If it happens again, you say, "We need to address this before we go back to normal." That is repair. Another line is, "I am open to reconnecting. I need to understand what happened during the silence and what will be different." Another line is, "I am not punishing you. I am protecting the relationship. We cannot build trust if we skip repair." Short, calm, structural. Now, here is where proof-based thinking gets tested. They may respond with one of 4 avoidant moves: minimization, blame shift, vagueness, emotional shortcut. These are not necessarily evil moves. They are regulation moves, but they are proof. They show the person does not have repair capacity right now. When you see these moves, do not debate. Do not write essays. You return to the same structure. "I understand. I still need consistency and repair. If that is not available, I will step back." Then you watch. Proof-based thinking means you stop negotiating with a nervous system that uses avoidance to stay comfortable. Now, let us talk about the most common fantasy that keeps people stuck. The fantasy is, if I handle the return perfectly, they will stay. If I am warm enough, patient enough, low need enough, they will finally choose me. That is hope-based thinking. It makes your behavior feel like a performance. You start auditioning for peace. Proof-based thinking is the opposite. It says, "My peace is not earned by performance. My peace is protected by structure. If you want access, we need agreements. If you cannot do agreements, you do not get full access." That is not cruelty. That is secure. We also need to address the comeback trap, because many anxious people say no contact works because they came back. But coming back is not the goal. Coming back is easy. Repair is hard. Consistency is hard. Capacity is hard. The person who returns warm but avoids repair is not a comeback. They are a reset. And resets steal months. They make you feel like progress happened when the structure stayed the same. Proof-based thinking measures the comeback by one thing. Did they build a new pattern after the return? If they did not, the comeback is a loop. Now, let us talk about what you should do in the first 24 hours after they return. This is where your nervous system is most vulnerable. First, slow your response. Not to play games, to let your body settle. The first urge is usually relief-seeking. Give yourself a few minutes. Breathe. Eat something. Move your body slightly. Then, respond briefly. Second, do not jump into intimacy. Do not jump into a long emotional call. Do not jump into sex. Not because sex is bad, because sex without repair can bond you back into the loop. You want structure first. Third, use one repair line. I am open to reconnecting. Before we go back to normal, we need to address the silence and agree on what changes. Then, stop. Watch the response. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to observe capacity. Now let us talk about what repair actually looks like in the simplest possible form, so you do not accept fake repair. A real repair includes 3 pieces: naming, ownership, agreement. Naming means they say, I went distant and did not communicate. Ownership means they say, I understand that hurt you and I am responsible. Agreement means they say, next time I feel overwhelmed, I will tell you and I will give you a return time. That is it. It does not have to be long. It has to be real. Fake repair is, sorry, I was busy, and then it happens again. Fake repair is, I am like this, you know me. Fake repair is a kiss instead of a plan. Proof-based thinking rejects fake repair politely. Now we need to name the most powerful shift you can make as an anxious person. Stop asking, do they miss me? Start asking, do they have repair capacity? Miss is a feeling. Capacity is behavior. A person can miss you and still not be safe. A person can miss you and still repeat the same pattern. Your nervous system does not need to be missed. It needs to be protected. That is why this episode is about proof versus hope. Let me give you a few more scenes, because repetition in scenes is how you internalize the difference. Scene 5 is the return with gifts. They send flowers. They offer a trip. It feels like effort. But if there is no conversation about the rupture, it is still a reset attempt. Gifts can be sincere. They can also be a way to skip accountability. Proof-based thinking still asks for repair. Scene 6 is the return with healing talk. They say they have been thinking. They say they are changing. They say they are healing. Beautiful. Proof still asks for one agreement you can observe. Next time you feel overwhelmed, will you communicate a return time? If they cannot do that, the healing talk is hope. Scene 7 is the return with anger. They come back defensive. They say, you left. They say, you abandoned them. This is common when an avoidant system feels shame and turns it into blame. Proof-based thinking does not argue. It says, I am open to talking when we can speak with respect. I still need repair for the silence. If they cannot, you step back. Now let us talk about what to do if they refuse repair but keep returning. This is where many people get stuck. The person keeps popping back into your life with warmth, then vanishing, then returning. It feels like you cannot fully end it because the door keeps opening. Proof-based thinking uses one rule. If someone returns without repair more than once, you treat their return as noise, not as a signal. You do not keep opening the door to the same pattern. You can say, I am not available for this cycle. If you want to reconnect, it requires a repair conversation and a new agreement. Otherwise, I am stepping back. Then you actually step back. That is how you end the loop. Now let us talk about the avoidant side one more time, because some avoidant listeners will be here. If you return warm but avoid repair, understand what you are doing. You are asking the other person to erase their pain so you can have comfort. You are choosing your relief over their safety. That is regulation at someone else's expense. The upgrade is simple. You do not have to become emotional overnight. You just have to communicate and repair. If you go silent, own it. If you need space, give a return time. If you hurt someone, do not skip it with romance. Repair is maturity. Without it, you will keep repeating. People will keep feeling safe with you for a moment and unsafe afterwards. Now let us close with the proof versus hope recalibration that you can carry into every connection. not just this one person. Hope is a warm message. Proof is a consistent pattern. Hope is chemistry. Proof is follow-through. Hope is a comeback. Proof is repair plus change. Hope is you feeling better for a day. Proof is your nervous system settling over weeks. If you want to stop being hooked, you stop rewarding returns with full access until you see proof. You do not punish. You do not attack. You simply require structure. Because being chosen is not a feeling they give you in a sweet moment. Being chosen is a structure they build with you over time. If they cannot build that, you do not need to hate them. You simply stop participating in a loop that costs you your peace. There is also a subtle reason the return feels so convincing.
When someone disappears, your brain builds a bigger version of them. You imagine the apology. You imagine the moment they finally choose you. So when they return warm, your mind tries to attach that warmth to the whole fantasy. That is why you do not decide on day one. You decide on the first week back, when life is normal again. So run a short proof window, 7 days, not a forever waiting period. Day 1, you accept the return without rushing intimacy, and you name the repair requirement once. Day 2, you ask for one predictable structure, a plan with a date and time, or a call time. Day 3, you watch whether they initiate without you pulling it out of them. Day 4, you name one small need and see whether they respond with care or defensiveness. Day 5, you notice what happens during a microstress, a schedule change, a slower reply, a small friction moment. Capacity shows up in small moments, not speeches. Day 6, you see whether they can do a simple repair if anything feels off. Day 7, you decide based on pattern, not the best moment. Now, let us name the 2 sentences that show you whether this is proof or hope. If they say, "I am here now. Why are you stuck on the past?" That is a reset attempt. If they say, "You are pressuring me," that is avoidance of accountability. Proof-based thinking does not debate. It returns to structure. I am not forcing an outcome. I am asking what you can offer and what I can count on. If they cannot answer, you have proof. A changed return is steady. They do not rush you into intimacy to skip the conversation. They can acknowledge the rupture, own the impact, and agree to one new behavior you can observe, like communicating space with a return time. A reset return is warm at first and vague after. It is romance with no plan. It is apology without agreement. It is closeness when you are about to leave and distance when you settle. Once you can name this, you stop calling it complicated. You call it a loop. And if you already gave full access on the return, do not shame yourself. Proof thinking starts now. Before we go forward, we need to address what happened and agree on what changes. If they refuse, you do not punish yourself by staying. You step back. Your nervous system deserves a bond where warmth is protected by repair. One more proof marker that anxious people ignore is what your body does after the return. If you feel instant relief, but then you feel braced again within hours, that is your nervous system noticing the missing repair. Your body knows when the baseline is still unsafe. Listen to that. Calm love feels steady. Loop love feels like relief followed by vigilance. Proof-based thinking is you choosing steadiness over spikes, even when spikes feel romantic. Welcome to PsychBond.
You're safe here.